Hello again, Ryan here, CNR Gunsmithing. Um, so this is the disassembly phase of the Tobin double barrel shotgun refinish project. Just wanted to show you a couple quick things that we found. Obviously, this is the foregrip. No major issues with that, but because we're going to be replacing the stock, we're going to end up replacing that too. So we're actually going to hold on to that and use that as a template for laying out our wood and being able to cut and fit that. Now, the stock. So here's the big thing with the stock is, as I was saying earlier, this piece here was actually added on. The original broke off, and then somebody actually cut and fit this piece. And they actually did quite the decent job. I mean, when you look on the inside of here, you almost cannot see where this piece broke off. You can kind of see a ridge line. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's right down along in here, right on this crease where they actually glued this piece on. The bad thing is this side here, you can see the wood glue that was in there, so that was also glued. So that whole thing, whether it was dropped or whatnot, but it looks like the top just kind of got jacked up in the past. But currently right now we have this broken piece right here, as you can see. So this stock is really pretty much had its ass kicked on this shotgun. It's definitely seen better days. So that's why we've decided to scrap it and go with something new. So that guy is going to be thrown out, and we're basically just going to use that as a template to make another one. Again, barrels over here, very good condition. Flats look good. I don't think you're actually going to be able to see down the barrel, but barrels are in very good shape. Chambers are in very good shape. There's no bulges, there's no swollen spots. Barrel thickness has not been measured yet, but looks like there's not going to be any issues with that. The rib is still soldered to the barrels. So basically how you tell that, if you hit it with a soft hammer, you kind of hear the ringing like a bell. That tells you that both the solder joints on the upper and lower rib are actually intact and still good. So we don't actually have to do any kind of rib repair or any repair to the barrels besides taking the pitting out. If the rib was actually separating and the solder was bad, when you hit it, it would sound like that. It'd give you a dull thud, but we're not getting any of that out of it. So the rib is actually intact, so that'll get refinished with the barrels in place. We're actually going to rust blue the barrels, which is a traditional old-fashioned way that a lot of double barrel shotguns were blued back in the early 1900s and even the late 1800s. And one of the main reasons of that is the processes. That was one of the main processes back then. Caustic bluing wasn't necessarily, well, it didn't come into major play until the 1900s, 1800s. They were experimenting with it, but a lot of times they had problems with separating the rib from the barrels because of the heat involved with soaking it into caustic solutions, and the caustic solutions would also eat the solder away. So we're going to rust blue this in traditional fashion. I think it's going to turn out pretty good. I mean, the sheen and the finish that you get from a good traditional rust blue is phenomenal. So anyway, that's what we're going to end up doing with the barrels. As you can see, a lot of these other small parts, very good shape. Sears look very good. Sear springs look very good. The sear plates look very good. This guy here, I mean, there's not even hardly any pitting in it. You have some slight discoloration. Nothing too hardcore with that. I mean, everything is in relatively good shape. So here is a receiver with the hammers, excuse me, hammer springs, Again, no issues that are standing out. Nothing is jumping out at me. Flats look good. Yeah, I mean, everything looks decent with that. Triggers, again, just need a strip and clean and then a refinish. So the project is actually not going to be that hard. The toughest part is going to be making a new stock for it, which shouldn't be that difficult either. So anyway, everything looks kind of good. Basically, we're going to take all the screw heads. They basically show a little bit of, through the years of people taking them in and out, they round the edges and scuff them up. Some are worse than others. That one just needs cleaning. The slot on that actually looks pretty good. There's a couple other ones over here. You can see where, if you look at the screw head, it's not even the whole way through. So the ends are widened, or in some cases they're even rolled back. This one here is rolled back along the edge. So we're going to refinish all these screw heads. We want to keep the original ones. So we'll pin these back into shape and polish them up, and then all your screws and little intricate parts and pins, they'll all get niter blued. If you don't know what niter bluing is, that's basically a heat treat blue in a controlled environment, so we don't just like throw it in an oven or anything. It actually gets dipped into a molten salt liquid, and then we get to basically choose the color that we want, from a light straw to a dark yellow to a rose to a dark red, light blue into the dark blues. So we're going to niter blue a lot of the small parts. We are going to niter blue these plates to a nice deep blue color. We're going to niter blue our screws to a nice cherry red color that should probably match the stock pretty well, and just throw out the accents of all the dark blue and niter blue colors. And we're going to rust blue. So after this is completely stripped down and we have all our mechanism springs and everything off of this, we're actually going to rust blue the receiver too, to match the barrels. So interesting project. Like I said before in an earlier video, this is basically to accent the processes that we offer here at C&R Gunsmithing. We kind of want to get into the traditional older style processes that were used back in the early days. There's not too many people around doing that anymore, so we really want to start utilizing those processes, because they really are good processes. They protect your rifle well, they look good, they're durable, and they're just not done anymore. And if you're restoring a classic firearm and you use a newer process like a Park or a caustic blue, you actually ruin the value of the gun, because you're not doing it to authenticity. You're not doing it to the process that we use when the gun is manufactured. So you can actually hurt value by not doing these processes on the right gun. So anyway, niter bluing, rust bluing, that's what we're going to be doing on this one. C&R Gunsmithing does also offer parkerizing and hot caustic blue, so keep that in mind if you're ever looking to have a rifle refinished. We do those processes as well. So anyway, thank you for watching, and our next video we're going to actually get into the barrels first. We're going to start to rust blue the barrels, so we'll get into all that. So all of this will be stripped off, cleaned, de-pitted, and we'll buff it up and go through the rust blowing process, and we'll show different stages of that as we get through it. For those that don't know what rust blowing is, it's a very long and slow process. It involves using various acids to etch and pre-rust the surface of the metal that you're using it on. So it's a very long process. It can take anywhere from 3 to 12 coats, depending on the finish you're looking for, how dark or light you want the color. Each coat basically sits on anywhere from 12 to 24 hours, and then it gets boiled, it gets carded, and then you repeat that process over again. So, a 10 coat process can take you, 10 to 12 days, depending on the humidity of where you're at. Do you have a hot box that you can put it in to accelerate the process? There's all kinds of different ways you can do it, but we'll start out with the barrels, and once we get the barrels done, then we'll move on to the other parts, and we'll make videos as we go along. So again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.